Feels like
Yeah,
fall. The weather of your
it
people, isn't that
does.
what you
The weather
say?
of my people. That's right. There are actually red leaves on the maple tree outside my window. It is.
Wow.
It is my time. My time to shine,
Way
my friend.
way too early for that.
Uh,
So excited today. We have a guest joining us, which I know is always one of our favorite things. So our guest today is Scott De Verona from the state of Michigan, and he is the director of the MiABLE accounts. Scott, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate being here.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been at the state and how you got into this whole ABLE account thing.
Sure. Again, my name is Scott De Verona. I'm the executive director of the MiABLE 529 Disability Savings Program. I've been with the state of Michigan for 25 years in various capacities. I've worked both for the Department of Treasury, the Department of Community Health, which is now part of Department of Health and Human Services, in various capacities from manager to analyst. I was actually at one point even a calculations assistant. But about probably 7 years ago, this new program came out at the federal level called ABLE. It stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience. And it's modeled after the very successful, very popular 529 education savings program, but it doesn't have anything to do with education savings. So
Yeah.
our division director, who was in charge of the 529 education savings account, said this has nothing to do with education savings. So it really doesn't fall into my wheelhouse. And I said, well, I used to work for Medicaid, so I know a little bit about it. And so that's how I became the executive director of the MiABLE Disability Savings Program. I was handed 4 pieces of paper that had the proposed at the time state legislation on it that said we're going to create this program. It's going to allow individuals with disabilities and their families to save money and go run with it. And that's what I've done for the past 7 years.
Wow.
So I travel throughout the
Great.
state, talking about the program, talking with individuals with disabilities and their families, talking with disability advocacy groups, financial planners like yourselves about the program and what it could do for their families.
That's awesome. We are obviously big fans of, the MiABLE accounts or ABLE accounts in general and really helping plan for that. Cause that's, we have clients who have children with disabilities and it's a major concern of theirs. This is a great way to kind of address some of that from a financial standpoint. Which we love, but my thing about it is, it seems like it's like this hidden secret where there's not enough
Right.
people that know about it.
Yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head. My number one problem is awareness.
Yeah.
There are not enough people in the disability community who know about this program. There's not enough service organizations that know about this program, and that has been one of the main problems that I have had with this. To be perfectly honest, we didn't know what we didn't know about this program and about the population that it served. I mean, I work for Treasury. Treasury deals a lot with financial planners, a lot with attorneys, tax attorneys and CPAs and stuff like that. We don't market, and we also are very successful in marketing to people for saving for college and college students and student loans and things like that. We don't market to individuals with disabilities and their families. We never have. So we still have a hard time reaching that population because this is the first time that they've had a product that's totally dedicated to them. I mean,
Right.
An individual who doesn't have a disability or isn't in that space probably has no knowledge of ABLE accounts whatsoever. And reaching out to those people has been difficult for us. One of the things that we learned is that for this population, sometimes government is not always their go-to resource.
Right.
Because although we're the global we as in government grants them or provides them services, we're also the ones that determine eligibility, and they don't want to do anything to remove that eligibility, to jeopardize the services that they need. So they're not going to go to the government and say, this is what I need, this is what I'm looking for. And they're a little bit apprehensive. So we learned very quickly that we were not necessarily going to be the source of education for these people, but all of these individuals have service organizations that they trust. Disability Network, the ARCs, all those types of disability resource centers that they already trust. So we learned very quickly that we need to partner with those agencies to say, hey, you've got a population that you're serving. I've got a product now that can help that population, but they don't necessarily want to listen to me. So what we've done is partner with a lot of those organizations to get the word out, to market to them. So I do a lot of joint presentations with ISDs, for instance, the transition coordinators with the intermediate school district, where I can go in and just have already a little bit of credibility from those agencies to say, hey, here's a guy who has a product that might benefit you. And, Nick, you talked about how you have clients who have children with special needs or individuals with disabilities in their families. The whole reason this program came about, and the reason it's named after Stephen Beck Jr., was he was a gentleman in Virginia who had a daughter with Down syndrome and went to his financial planner and said, okay, I need to start saving for my kid's college, my kid's education, my kid's future expenses. And he set up in 529, just like a lot of us do, and was told, don't save for your daughter with Down syndrome. And he's like, wait, what? She's going to have expenses. Some of them are going to be dramatic expenses. Yeah. And he said he was told, no, if you save for her, she's going to lose the benefits that you've worked hard to get for her. And he said, this is the stupidest thing ever. And he lobbied all the way up to the federal Congress and said, we got to find a way to save for these people's expenses. It could be catastrophically expensive to have a disability. Why not give them a way to save for it? It makes absolutely no sense to tell these people, and this is the line that I use all the time, stay broke. Let the government take care of you. And that is the most backwards logic that we've ever come up with. And Stephen Beck Jr. lobbied all the way to Congress, created this ABLE account, Achieving a Better Life Experience. And now we have ABLE accounts nationwide that have billions of dollars deposited. And we're doing the work that allows these individuals to save for those expenses, to have a way to achieve a better life experience. So we're really excited.
Fantastic. It's funny because it's easy to make the argument that those kids need savings more.
Right. And we don't want to punish good financial behavior. We want to reward it.
Yeah. This is the only population that is told stay broke. And if you have too much money, this is the other thing that blows my mind. If you have too much money, we're going to take away the benefits that you have earned.
Right.
Wait.
Right.
I did everything right, and you're taking away the stuff that I need. So
it's crazy. So tell us a little bit, if you would, about kind of the functionality of how the account works and what some of the advantages are of these accounts.
Sure. So the great thing is our account is really simple to set up. All of our information is available on our website, MiABLE.org. Please do not go into a bank or a financial institution, a credit union, or any place like that and try to open an ABLE account. They will look at you because the people outside of the disability community are not aware of this. They'll look at you like you're an alien. They won't know what an ABLE account is. But if you go to our website, it's really easy to set up. We will need a lot of demographic information, addresses, dates of birth, social security numbers, all the same type of information that you'll need in order to establish, a retirement account or a bank account or anything like that. But the number one benefit, and the reason this program was created, is because individuals with disabilities, in order to maintain their eligibility for the programs that they need, like Medicaid or Children's Special Healthcare Services or any of those programs, there's an asset limit. If you have more than $2,000 in assets, you're kicked out of their program. And $2,000 in assets, I don't know for you guys, is not a lot of money.
No,
it really isn't. I look at some people's mortgage payment, I'm like, it's more than $2,000. Well, and if you can't have more than $2,000 in assets to your name, then it's impossible to become economically self-sufficient. You are literally dependent upon someone else or something else forever. Yeah. And so they created this program to allow people to save, invest, and spend their money on the things they need. So that $2,000 asset threshold is no longer an issue if you have an ABLE account. The ABLE assets do not count against that $2,000. So that's the whole reason the program was created. And there are some income limits. So I'm going to talk, or not income limits, excuse me. There are contribution limits. You're only allowed to submit an ABLE account $18,000 per year, and that's in 2024. That is subject to IRS fluctuations for the contribution gift tax limit. The money in the accounts can be used for lots of different things. That's the other question that I get quite often is what can I use the money for? The IRS, when they were actually debating the legislation, one of the congressmen said, do you want this to pay for everything? And the respondent's answer was yes, because the list of things that a kid with Down syndrome needs is very different from a list from somebody who has a spinal cord injury. It's very different from somebody who has developmental disabilities. So trying to come up with a list of everything that's allowable was impossible. So what they did is they came up with categories and they said, okay, these are the kinds of things that we're talking about. So just like you can use your 529 education account to pay for educational expenses, you can use your ABLE account to pay for those as well. Tuition, books, fees, computers, anything education related, whether that's writing a resume, taking a resume writing course, or taking a certificate course, becoming certified as a mechanic. Those are all allowable expenses out of an ABLE account. You can also pay for housing. Whether that's rent, mortgage, utilities, garbage removal service, internet service fees. One of the big ones is making modifications to a home to allow for accessibility issues. Those are all allowable expenses out of an ABLE account. One of the number one reasons that individuals with disabilities are unemployed or underemployed is transportation. It can be very difficult to move a person with a disability, especially with a mobility issue, from place to place. So transportation is an allowable expense out of an ABLE account. You can pay for a bus pass. You can pay for an Uber. You can buy a car. You can pay for the costs associated with that vehicle, wheelchair accessible vehicle. I have a client who lives on Mackinac Island, and he goes back and forth to his doctor's appointments on the Shepler's Ferry, and he can pay for his ferry costs out of his ABLE account because it's a transportation expense. It doesn't matter the type of transportation expense. It's a transportation expense. Okay. And the other big category that we talk about a lot with ABLE accounts is healthcare costs. As we mentioned, having a disability can be very expensive, and sometimes it's because of those healthcare costs. So you can pay for doctor visits and co-pays and lab fees, diagnostic testing, any health or medical costs can be paid for out of an ABLE account. And we have the full list of things that are available on our website. But the bottom line is, a lot of people are worried about the restrictions that come with an ABLE account and what you can use your money for. It really is wide open. Now, I also tell my clients, don't spend your ABLE money on things that you're going to have a hard time justifying are a disability expense. But neither the IRS nor the Social Security Administration have ever said that right there is not a disability expense. But if it doesn't fall into one of those categories, then my advice to my clients is don't use your ABLE account to pay for that. Use some other money to pay for those things. If you've got any questions and it doesn't fall on one of these categories, this is how I would deal with that. So, and some of the other advantages of an ABLE account, and here in Michigan, they really did a great job of promoting this as, hey, we want people to use this. So there's an income tax incentive for individuals who file Michigan income tax return. If you make a contribution to an ABLE account up to $5,000, it's tax deductible. For a joint couple, husband and wife, $10,000 is tax deductible on your Michigan income tax return. So it's a great way to offer an incentive for families. A lot of these families have been told, don't give the patient, the client, the child money, because if you do, well, they could spend it frivolously, or they might lose their benefits. And now here's a way for people to gift individuals with disabilities with money that they can use for their disability expenses and not worry about losing eligibility for those programs. So it's a great way to offer a tax incentive for aunts, uncles, grandmas, grandpas, teachers, those kinds of people to make those contributions and give themselves an income tax deduction to boot. So it's a great way. The other thing that Michigan legislation did is they increased the total aggregate amount of 529 that you can have. It's $500,000. So theoretically, I mean, again, at $18,000 a year, it's going to take you a long time to get to that $500,000. But for those families who have, means, it's a great way to shelter assets and to make sure that that child who has these lifelong disabling conditions have money available to them for the services and products that they need.
Yeah, that's it's such a great program and lots of different ways to think about it and use it as a part of financial planning. I'm curious. We get some questions on eligibility. There seems to be kind of some question on like who's eligible and when. Can you kind of comment on what that looks like?
Absolutely. So the legislation was created, and this is where I tipped my hat earlier to Congress and some of the things that they did. Here's one of the things that they did that we questioned. So the whole point to this program was to help individuals with disabilities. I think everybody agreed. It was bicameral. Both parties, young, old, men, women, everybody said, yeah, we need to help individuals with disabilities. But one of the things that they did as well, we also want to just check and see. We want to dip our toe in. So they limited this program to those who become disabled before age 26. So you have to have a disabling condition before age 26 to qualify for this program. Doesn't matter how old you are now or how old you are when you open the account. It matters how old you were when you became disabled.
Okay.
And that limited this account to those who are born with a disabling condition or those who suffer from an accident prior to age 26. However, that left a number of people out. There are conditions, disabling conditions, lifelong disabling conditions that sometimes occur after age 26. Things like Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS. There are a lot of spinal cord injuries where somebody jumps into a pool on their 27th birthday, breaks their neck, and is now a quadriplegic. I can't help those people yet because federal Congress has already recognized the limitation in this, and they are already voted to raise the age from 26 to 46.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that won't happen for another 2 years in January of 2026. A lot of sixes in there from 26 to 46 in 2026. But the bottom line is they recognized that, number one, this program is beneficial. It's beneficial for people regardless of when they become disabled, but they limited it, at least initially, to that age range. So I'm glad to say that in about a year, a little less than a year and a half, we'll be able to enroll people who become disabled before age 46. Allowing that many more people in Michigan. We think it's going to double our potential population. So it's a great way to at least to have that. But those are the eligibility restrictions right now. You must be disabled before age 26 to participate in this program.
It's interesting. That's kind of been the history of the 529 education program too, is over time they've loosened restrictions and made it, they realized what they need to do to make it more palatable, and what you can do with the money and how you can save. And that's good that they're recognizing that. As far as the definitions of a disability for these purposes, what's the criteria around that?
So that's the other area where they're like, okay, well, what is a disabled person? And they are intentionally very broad in their eligibility.
Good.
So there are 3 ways to prove eligibility for the ABLE program. Number one, you can have a condition that qualifies you for SSI or SSDI because of that disability. Number two, there is a list of what they call compassionate allowances on the Social Security Administration website. If you have a condition that is listed there, you automatically qualify for this program as well. The third way, and the most, for lack of a better term, lenient way to demonstrate eligibility is with a doctor's certification. You can have a physician indicate this person has a condition. It happened before age 26. It is a lifelong condition that could potentially result in death. So it's really, really, for lack of a better term, easy to prove disability eligibility for an ABLE account. This doesn't, but the most important factor and the most important thing that I want to convey is that you do not need to be receiving disability benefits in order to qualify for an ABLE account. You need to be eligible for SSI or SSDI, or have a condition on the compassionate allowances list, or have a doctor willing to certify this disability. So it really, much like the list of qualified disability expenses, They didn't want to come up with a list of here are all the conditions that qualify you for an ABLE account. They wanted to make it as broad as possible. And we know the Social Security Administration already does disability classification or disability qualification. So we want to make sure that we're already utilizing what's already out there and not have a separate disability, like you're a disabled person who doesn't qualify for an ABLE account and you are. So they want to make it as broad as possible and make sure that it includes as many people as possible.
Sure. So what do you say for people who have some uncertainty as to whether or not they would qualify? Are there resources that they can...
Yes, we do have eligibility information available on our website. There are lots of different websites, and I direct, obviously, people a lot to my website, MiABLE.org. But there are national websites out there, especially for somebody who is either not a Michigan resident or has family members who are outside the state of Michigan. I encourage you to check out the ABLE National Resource Center. The ABLE National Resource Center is put out by the National Disability Institute, so it is not affiliated at all with any state or any organization or any ABLE program. It's simply a repository of information for those who are interested in the national ABLE programs. Obviously, for instance, it has a comparison tool where you can look at, I want to compare Michigan's program to Indiana's program to Montana's program or any of those things. So you can look at, what makes the most sense to me. And, I think Michigan's program is great. I think we have a wonderful product, especially for individuals in Michigan. But there are some families who live in Michigan and have accounts out of state, and that is perfectly reasonable and understandable. There's no residency restriction. There's nothing that says that you live in Michigan, you have to have a Michigan account. I also have clients in 47 other states who look at Michigan's program and go, hey, this works for me. Or grandma and grandpa live there. Let's give them the tax incentives so they can contribute to their program in their home state. So it really is flexible in that way as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Love that. Another one of I think it's a relatively new thing, but we have clients that there's uncertainty of like how this kid's going to grow up, what are they going to be the effects,
right?
And then if you start saving from day one in a 529 plan, and college is all of a sudden out of the cards. Yeah. I think it's new now where you can take money from the 529 and put it into the ABLE. Is that right?
Absolutely correct. And this was again one of those things where Congress went, aha, wait a minute. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I got 2 college students. So I've been saving for college as long as they could breathe pretty much. And, had college not been in the cards, I would have had a significant amount of money that's tied up in education related expenses, and they're not going to use it. Well, they're going to have expenses. We've talked about that already as well. We know they're going to have these expenses. Why not move that money from a 529 education account into a 529 ABLE account where they can use it for other things or for education? So yes, Congress did allow for transfers, rollovers from 529 education accounts into 529 ABLE accounts. It is still subject to those annual limitations, that $18,000 a year in 2024, but it does allow families to have that flexibility to say, yes, this child is not going to go to college because of this disabling condition. Let's open an ABLE account and transfer that money. Here's the other thing. That provision is scheduled to sunset in Congress at the end of 2025. So actually, just this week, Senator Casey out of Pennsylvania just proposed in the Senate to, I guess the term would be unsunset, or to remove the sunset provision, allowing them to continue in perpetuity.
Put it in a separate law.
I'd love to be able to tell you what Congress is going to do, but I don't know if you've heard. There's going to be an election in a couple months that really could change a whole lot of things. But I think people realize the benefit of having that ability to move money from an education account into an ABLE account. So I don't really see a whole lot of negative to continuing that. So this is Scott's guess. I think it will probably pass, but who knows with Congress. But you are correct, Nick. Right now, it is allowed to move money from 529 education into 529 ABLE, just for those reasons.
Yeah.
We'll
Awesome.
add that to the list of things that were in the 2017 tax law that may or may not end in 2025.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
fun stuff. Um, so Scott, we talked about how broad the categories for spending are, but Nick and I both know, like, dealing with clients, if you're suggesting that they do something that puts strings on their money, even if those exceptions are going to be rare, they're still going to want to know what happens if they end up not using it for qualified purposes.
Yeah.
Um,
So
yeah,
it's a great question. And, if you were to utilize, if you were to utilize money for a non qualified expense, and, like I said, I still can't
it
give
would
you
be
a
hard to
definition of
do, right?
what those
Yeah,
non qualified expenses are. There certainly could be tax implications. There could be up to a 10% penalty that's associated with those withdrawals and that money usage. There also could be, if utilizing that money outside, or was in addition to that $2,000 asset threshold, there could be ramifications to eligibility for those disability services as well. I'm going to knock on wood, even though it's a Formica desk, that has never happened in Michigan. I've never heard of any of my clients, and I've got over 6,000 clients at this point with ABLE accounts, who've ever had an issue with justifying, hey, prove to me
yeah,
that was a disability related expense, or
yeah.
show me the receipt that was a hospital bill or anything like that. That has never happened in the ABLE program. That being said, it's probably because it's so new. I'm sure it will eventually happen, and somebody's going to
Well,
have to justify that. But
we've been saying the same thing about education expenses with the Education 529, and well, I can at least say 23 years of dealing with them. I don't think I've ever had anybody have a disallowed expense, and I'm sure it's a
yeah,
similar thing, but it still is a question everyone's going to ask.
sure, not a
Yeah,
problem.
yeah.
Well, and I'm sure it's kind of written vaguely in there because eventually somebody's going to abuse it, like
Right. Yeah, there's going to be that
to the
case where the
point
IRS
where,
is going
yeah,
to be,
Yeah,
no, my
yeah.
friend, not so
That
fast.
diamond tiara, how is that a
Yeah,
disability
tell me
expense? I'm not
again why she
sure.
needed that. Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly,
But
exactly.
in the real world, it's probably going to be pretty difficult for a family not to have justifiable expenses to use
Right.
the money for. Yeah,
Agreed. Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, you touched on it briefly, but I don't think you gave yourself enough kudos, Scott. And that is just looking at the investment lineup of the Michigan plan, like much like the 529 college savings plan, which we're a huge fan of. You want to kind of speak to that a little bit about, kind of controlling costs and giving great options?
Yeah. One of the things that we did, the state of Michigan joined the National ABLE Alliance. The National ABLE Alliance is a coalition of 18 states plus the District of Columbia, who have come together to share resources. We have similar websites. We do marketing together. And all of our investments are essentially the same throughout the National ABLE Alliance. We are able to offer 7 different investment options to our clients. Our 7 investment options are, they range in cost, and they range in volatility, let's say, or risk.
Risk. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So we have a very aggressive, 90% in the stock market, subject to market fluctuations, aggressive option. And then we have a conservative option that has, 85% of the funds are in a high yield savings account. And then we have a checking account option that allows individuals to go into those places, like, the Rite Aids, the Myers, those kinds of places, their things. So you can use your ABLE debit card to pay for those qualified disability expenses. So we have 7 different investment options, along with including the checking account, that allow individuals to make their investment decisions based on their individual market risk. Their own individual. Hey, you know what? I'm not going to need this money for a while. I'm just going to start saving it and let the market do what the market does. Or I have a little bit lower threshold for risk. So I'm going to choose like the growth option or the moderately conservative option or one of those things. So, and they really are spelled out exactly what they say. We have an aggressive option. We have a moderately aggressive option. We have a conservative option. We have a moderately conservative option. So it's one of those things where they're named appropriately so that people have an underlying understanding of, okay, what am I investing in? And the other great thing is all of our options have a hyperlink associated to it. So you can see, okay, this particular fund, whether it's the aggressive or the moderately aggressive or whatever it is invested in these types of assets. And it's the, State Street, the BlackRock, those kinds of investments that people are familiar with, that you hear about, on Bloomberg and on CSNBC and all those kinds of things. So, but it's, as I've mentioned earlier, it's the first opportunity for this population to start actually in the market, to start actually saving, to start investing, to start learning the differences between the bond market and the stock market and what is a stock and those kinds of things. And so that's actually what I'm really excited about, because one of the things, again, I work for Treasury. One of the things that we are really gung-ho about is financial literacy and financial education. The better educated our population is to financial considerations, the better off we're all going to be. The fewer people we have filing bankruptcy, the fewer people we have with defaulted federal student loans, the fewer people we have in garnishment, the fewer people that we have with outstanding tax obligations is going to help everyone in the state of Michigan. So this is where I kind of get on my soapbox and talk about everybody needs to have a financial education and a financial plan and a budget and all those kinds of things. And this is the first step to this population's having those kings and having those opportunities.
Nick, I think we found a kindred spirit.
Yeah. Indeed. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
What's the best way to stay up to date with any of like the changes in the accounts, that kind of thing?
So first and foremost, I invite everyone to go to our Facebook page. Our Facebook page has all of our events. You just click MiABLE Disability Savings and you'll find it on Facebook. I do webinars every other month, typically at 6 p.m. on a Wednesday, where I run through, a 45-minute presentation on the entire program, what's changing, what the law is now, how you become eligible, or what your eligibility restrictions. I talk a lot about the qualified disability expenses, and I even walk you through how to enroll. I even show you the screen. So everybody has an indication, okay, what's this going to look like? How do I do this? What do I click on this box? And I talk all the way through that in my monthly webinars. And you can register for those on our Facebook page. I do events throughout the state of Michigan. I'm actually going to be in Holland, Michigan on Monday. They're doing an adaptive sailing clinic for individuals with disabilities. So I'm going to be there helping individuals with disabilities and their families. I'm at Holland in August. Should be fine. Yeah. So twist my arm and be happy to be there. So, but that's the kind of things that we do is we partner with disability advocacy organizations to get the word out about this. So I'll be at a booth handing out, those of you who are on the web can't see, but I got sunglasses. I got lots of swag.
Love it.
That are available that just help remind people, hey, this is out there and it's available. And I've got brochures and things like that as well. If anybody needs any brochures or wants a presentation, you can email me directly, MiABLE, MiABLE, at michigan.gov. I'm there to answer questions if anybody has any policy questions, but mostly my job is outreach. My job is awareness. My job is helping people with disabilities and their families know about this program. Because the great news is I don't really need to do a lot of convincing. Once people understand, it's like, I can save. Yeah. Yes. I can invest. Yes. I can spend the money that I've saved on the stuff that I need. Yes. That's exactly what this program is for. And they're like, I don't have to keep it in a coffee can or under my mattress anymore. No, you don't have to do that. You can actually invest it and make some money. And any money that you make is also tax-free.
Yeah, it's crazy because we're chuckling about that, which seems like such a natural human right to be able to do those things and to not have that. It's crazy.
Yeah. Again, this is the only population that's told stay broke.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
So we will definitely put some links to the Facebook page, the website in the show notes for our listeners if they want to check that out. And then I'd love to wrap up. I'm sure you have lots of them, but I'm curious if you have a success story or two you'd like to share with us.
Well, here's what I'll tell you. Because one of the things that we do is we love to share our success stories. So disabilitysavings.org is a list of a handful of our MiABLE success stories. I'm thinking of Edward Lofton, who is a gentleman with autism who works for Ford, and he's been saving for his first car, and he's buying.
Love it.
He's already bought his first car, utilizing his ABLE account. Because I don't know about you guys, but it's really hard to buy a car with $2,000.
Yeah.
Certainly not going to buy a new car with $2,000.
Yeah.
Most used cars with $2,000 are just rolling chassis.
Yeah.
But he was able to use his ABLE account to save up for his car, for his first vehicle. And that's the other cool thing that we've started doing now is partnering with those employers who employ individuals with disabilities.
Yeah.
Because they can make contributions directly through payroll into their ABLE account for the disability related expenses that they need. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. I love sharing the success stories and that's why we have that page out there, because it's a great opportunity for us to say, hey, here's how it works in the real world. And Edward is a great case for that. There's another story out there about a little girl who just lights up when she's around horses, and she can pay for, there's actually a medical diagnosis, equine therapy, horse therapy. She goes to the horse farm and absolutely loves it and just lights up. And it's one of those things where they never would have been able to afford it. Believe it or not, Medicaid probably doesn't pay for equine therapy.
No, probably not.
But yeah. If that's the therapy that is warranted, it's something you could pay for out of your ABLE account. So it's a great opportunity to say, they won't pay for this, but I can pay for this. It's part of my budget. It's part of what I can spend my money on because it's my money.
Yeah. So, how powerful. That's awesome.
Yeah, those are good stories.
Well, I appreciate you joining us, Scott. Appreciate all the work that you do. And we will definitely pass along that information, put it in the show notes for our listeners that want to reach out and look for other opportunities to collaborate with you guys.
Really this has been great. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Scott. We'll do our part to get the word out.
Perfect.
This is a Zedia Media production.